What is up, sad boys? How are we doing? I am here once again discussing music. In case you didn't know, Angels and Airwaves has released a new album, Lifeforms. Tom DeLonge's space sprawling love epic band, Angels and Airwaves, a new album. The first one they have released in like 7 years. I know they've done some EPs since their last full-length release, but this is an entire album. And what can we compare this very specific space-age band to but themselves? Especially since I realized that Lifeforms has the same amount of songs back in 2006. 14 years ago, an album that I may have bought brand new, and an album that I can truly say saved my life. So this is me, Greyson Todd, going song by song, Angels and Airwaves, do it! Let's start it off the only way we can start. Let's go to space, baby. This is gonna be such a hard playlist to create because Angels and Airwaves is just pure nostalgia for me. And while I can now intellectualize, I can articulate my feelings about the band, I still can't help or deny that when the music kicks in, when those guitars and the drums hit, there's something inside my little queer emo heart that just starts fluttering. This is extremely different than anything Blink-182 has ever done. First off, it's like 3 times the runtime of your typical Blink-182 song. Usually, I'm not into atmospheric fapping around for 5 minutes until the actual song kicks in. There's just something with how Tom DeLonge is able to capture the feeling of space, magic, and beauty of the cosmos. The way he's able to craft that imagery in the guitar work and then pull you in with the lyrics by asking you questions, by talking to you specifically. You always feel like you are the person in the room with Tom, alone in this vacuum of space. Looking back at it now, you can hear it and you just go, oh, U2. They're just doing the U2 thing. Tom DeLonge wanted to be his own Bono-like figurehead of the band, and congratulations, you finally got it. As a kid, this was the most emotional thing I've ever heard, which is why it still resonates with me today. And I think this first one does do a very good job of kind of giving you the concept of the band itself. Because if you are expecting Blink-182, this immature punk rock songs, and you're given this instead, it feels extremely mature in how the music is crafted and how Tom DeLonge imbues themes within the song. So it kind of tricks your high school brain into thinking you're hearing like the next evolution of music. But there's also a barrier of entry to even get into the album because it feels dense with the instrumentals. So you sort of have to just sit back in your bed late at night and just soak this song in, which is kind of the only way I think this album can be taken. And now 15 years later, do they still have it? This is not the same band. Oh my god. A little disappointed this wasn't Angels and Airwaves doing their version of the Clash's Time Bomb. I would have loved to hear Tom DeLonge stretch out Black Suit, Black Cats, Cadillac, Avoid the Time Bomb. Would have loved to hear that sung over the tremolo guitar. Instead, we're greeted with what sounds like shiny toy guns. Hello, goodbye, like fucking mid-2000s neon pop. This album cover also feels completely detached from the band itself. You have a Hayley Williams in a bodysuit doing the fucking David pose with a color grade on the side. But when the song does kick in, it sounds a little more reminiscent of that Angels and Airwaves sound, though it's a little more digitized. There's a little more Tom's doing with his vocals than previously. It does feel like he is trying to work in more of those pop sounds, but mostly I'm just glad with the honesty of who their audience really is. Hey there, little sad girl. I really want to hold you. That is the entirety of Angels and Airwaves' catalog is, hey there, little sad girl, I want to make you feel less alone in this world. So buy our super double deluxe triple version of the album that comes with stickers and magnets and a booklet and a movie that Tom DeLonge made in his basement. It's just funny how they just kind of like suck and drain the life out of every sad emotional person that may connect to their music. I'm not really sure what to expect from this album. It feels like they are gonna switch things up. They're gonna add in new elements that they previously hadn't before. But when it comes to starting off our playlist for getting the full Angels and Airwaves experience, you really cannot do better than Valkyrie Missile. It has the space theming, it has the empowering lyrics about like taking a chance and holding on and being with another person and how it's scary. It feels like space travel, while also having a kick-ass guitar part that just kind of pounds in the end. He's really good at mixing these rock elements with these U2 elements that makes it a little more palatable. So in that sense, I think Valkyrie Missile should be the first song on the playlist. We have our AVA Gauntlet started off right. Speaking about implementing those rock elements in with the atmospheric elements, Distraction feels like a fucking kick-ass second track, one that continues the space theming, but also brings it into a more sceneable and more palatable. It's not so dense in the instrumentals as Valkyrie Missile. It's a little more straightforward, and it has a really good hook in it, a really powerful hook. When those drums fucking pound through and he breaks into the I'll Be Your Distraction, you can't help but just want to belt along with the music. And I think speaking about being someone's distraction, let me distract you from this horrible world, the place that we're in, the war that's happening. Let me distract you for 1 second of your life so you can feel like a person again. Feels like there's a little more depth to it than Angels and Airwaves, like later tracks when they start going into like, I love you because I love you, don't you love me? They haven't quite gotten to that stage of their music yet. I like the lore building in this song. I usually don't like when we're like crafting worlds and like sci-fi fantasy concepts in our music, because I prefer music to just kind of be straightforward. But since it is Angels and Airwaves and they are a thematic crafting narrative band, we must take the narrative in at its face value. Think they do just enough to give you like images of wars. Planes flew in, their bombs did too, the city fell flat, and the fires they grew. When the smoke comes in, it'll color this town, but I'll still have you, so I'll say it loud, I'll have your distraction. You can make it through anything, you can make through any horrors in the world if you have someone to connect to. If you can tell they're just at their most creative they have ever been, using like tool chest and natural sounds to create this beat that just gives it a texture that elevates it above the drum kit. And then when the drum kit comes in, it sounds so grounded and real that adds like a thumping element to the song that just makes this production is just like top fucking notch. I find that jumping between their first LP and their newest one is really interesting to compare them, because they are hitting a lot of the same themes. They're kind of reiterating and updating a lot of things that they would play on in their earlier part of their career, but they're doing it in a way that feels more modern, or feels more it feels like Tom has gotten tired of being just Angels and Airwaves. Like, they're this band that makes Angels and Airwaves music and they have their fans and that's about it. He wants to branch out and be more, be on top of the world again. Blink-182 was such a monumental band that everyone fucking knew who they were. In Angels and Airwaves, I rarely ever hear them brought up in the conversation of music. What impact does this band have outside of that very core, very extremely dedicated fan base? Second song in, we got another You're a Broken Soul and a Broken Girl. Got that fire deep within those eyes. We have another broken, sad girl, and Tom DeLonge is the only one in this world to save her. Get on your knees, we're gonna play tonight. I like to hunt with a deadly touch. I Can Die Here Now by Euphoria. This song's kind of confusing because it's speaking about euphoria, but it's also like toxic. You're such a fool, this modern love. It's like the wind has killed the dove. So they're saying that like this toxic relationship and the anger between the two people, the sadness and like the hatred and being a sad broken girl, like he gets off on that. Like that makes her better and that brings you euphoria. It's hard to live when you always been let down, a little kid and her villain. Who's her villain? She never ran because she's never really knew how. So let the wolves come in and rip the bad man down. Who's the bad man? Are you the bad man treating her poorly? Just like Distraction, we have some imagery of war. You're in this war, but the end is in sight now. So I guess we're coming out on the end of this intergalactic world-altering war. I'm on alert this time like fucking Paul Revere. It feels like all the elements I enjoyed in the band have been chiseled away to become something more presentable, and I'm just not connecting with it. Like the mix sounds good, but it doesn't sound unique. So far, they feel like two complete different entities. But I will not deny that Distraction, it's a fucking banger. This song has such a good bounce to it, and I like that each track on this album is kind of peeling back the layers of Valkyrie Missile. Valkyrie Missile comes out of the gate full force with this space imagery, space concept. We're angels and airwaves. They come out of the gate with this big declaration, and it feels like each song is kind of scaling that back and toning it down and bringing you in, making it more personal, making it more intimate. Though I don't think Tom's voice is that strong when he's like softly singing. He does better with the reverb and the delay and the vocal inflection when he's singing out into the space-time continuum, but here he's soft and slow and he's intimate, and you can hear the scratchy tones in his voice. This song seems to be hitting on a lot of themes that they've hit on before. There's a sad girl. The first time they kissed, she gave him a lie. They tried to make a scene and pretended to cry. Oh, maybe that's why he focuses so much on these sad, lonely girls, because he's tired of these girls pretending to cry, pretending to cause a scene. In case you had doubts, he's here and he's cool the way that it is. Just give me a chance. He'll try to forgive. Do It For Me Now does do it for me enough to make it an enjoyable, bouncing song, and I like the switch up and flow with how the verses work from the previous two songs. And that just further proves just the creative flourish that they had during the creation of this album. One thing I was definitely not expecting when I put on this new Angels and Airwaves album was Tom DeLonge singing about a BDSM relationship over like lo-fi hip-hop beats to do your homework to. Out of the realm of what I thought Angels and Airwaves would do. This seems a little like sleazier. They've always been very like romantically inclined, very poetic in love. That love is something so tight and so strong that it can stretch through war, through space. But here, everything seems to be very personal, very kind of stripped down and like sexual, like just very explicitly sexual. I'm so lost in desire, I can't dig myself out. Something out there is pulling at me like a ghost. Most definitely, like a ghost. Most definitely, yes. I like how he thought of that metaphor and then he agreed with it. He was like a ghost? Yeah, most definitely, yes. Yeah, that's the right one to go with. Like having sex while on fire. You shouldn't be feeling a burning sensation during the intercourse. Always out there biting that leash. Now that's specific, like a leash, a leather leash. You're having very passionate sex. It's burning, it's fire. There's a connection there and a leash, but she does it delicately. She's biting the leash, but she does it delicately. So it's like, you know, casual BDSM in a way that Tom can feel a little more safe in. Pull the pin, you're a crack in my head. Either way, I'm better off dead. Wait, what? Why are you better off dead? The rope is gripping much tighter. I will figure you out. Waiting for these cuts to scene, knowing my heart will bleed. Yeah? So now there's ropes and cutting involved. This girl will be your end. Yeah, if she's fucking bleeding you, choking you out with a rope, there's a leash involved, you might die during this. That all being said, I think it kind of works really well here. Tom's voice does seem to be a little stretched thin with what he's able to do, but they are able to have that Angels and Airwaves edge underneath it that I think elevates this song past the two previous ones that we've heard so far. So I think Spellbound on Lifeforms is our best candidate for a song on our playlist thus far, making it our first song from Lifeforms to make it on the playlist. Hey yo, here I am, here we go, life's waiting to begin. Hey yo, here I am. I want to know where Tom was when he wrote that lyric where he was like, hey yo, here I am, here we go. Life's waiting to begin, brah. This incorporates a lot of that like space age, the adventure. We're going into something new. It's kind of a graduation song in that sense. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. We just gotta go out into this adventure, and it's this hope porn. It's this hope porn that Angels and Airwaves is so good at, making you feel like you can actually achieve something, like you can be something good in your life. Not only does Tom go, I see you, sad individual sitting there in your home, feeling like you'll never be loved, feeling like you'll never be a part of anything greater than yourself. I see you there. But don't you worry, life is waiting to begin, and we can go and grab it, and we can find love, we can breathe, it will be beautiful. In that sense, I've always found this kind of cheesy and kind of empty, though I do really like the imagery of the second verse. Any type of love, it will be shown, like every single tree reach for the sky. If you're gonna fall, I'll let you know. I'll pick you up like you for I. You know, friendship, picking each other up. I felt as a 13-year-old, how old was I? I felt as a 13-year-old listening to the song that Tom DeLonge had my back. And if I were to fall in the crowd, if I were to fall sick during a show, he would pick me up, bring me on stage, and tell me that it was okay. I will say this is probably the weakest song on the album, which is funny since it is the single. It is the most iconic one and probably the one that most people know if they know any Angels and Airwaves at all. But I find it a little too simplistic. What's the adventure? What are we doing? You can just say, hey, life's an adventure, go out and grab it. But it's like, okay, when the song's over though, I'm just gonna like go back to my life. So this one has always struck me as a little cheesy, and if there was one on the album I skipped. No More Guns seems to be a Green Day-like, Clash-esque political song with a cheeky sense to it, making fun of the political climate in America around the issue with guns. But what is it actually saying? What are we actually saying here, Tom? This is your declaration, no more guns. What about the guns? Early in the morning, and I'm sitting at the table drinking shots of ancient whiskey. That's not how I would start my day. I prefer coffee, but I guess ancient whiskey. How old is ancient when it comes to whiskey? I know you're supposed to age it in like barrels, prehistorical whiskey. I don't know. Is he a gun guy or is he unstable because of the guns? We're in a fucking nightmare. Agreed. There's 100,000 victims. If we can't protect them safely, they'll die from their complexion. Okay, Tom's getting a little political. This may have been written during the 2020 time of crisis in our country that we're always in. So Tom is saying we're in a fucking nightmare because there's 100,000 victims who die from gun violence a year. If we can't protect them safely, if we can't protect our own citizens safely, then they'll die from their complexion, saying that they'll die for being black, or they'll die because statistically per capita, the police tend to shoot minorities a little more than white people. There's riots in the street, and it feels like a coffin theme seems to be normal when we're talking, but we're racing to the bottom. So we're all just acting like everything's fine, but there's riots going on in the streets and people are dying. Got it? Then we go back into the chorus. How could you know? How do we stay in the hell we made? No, get down and pray. I think I'll get high like the DEA. Oh, wow. Really calling out our drug and enforcement agency. Tom, you're holding no punches. This may not be the most critical critique or the most intelligent breaking down of race relationships between the cops and our citizens in America, especially in 2020. But for Tom, for someone who doesn't get political, this feels extremely more mature, and it does feel like a step forward for Tom to become a more thoughtful artist. I will not deny that I appreciate him just taking a stance on anything. And with that, I think we're even in our playlist. Look at that, 2 and 2. A Little's Enough may be my favorite song on this album. If I were to have to choose one, I think the way that chorus hits, the way that it just flows into itself is so infectious, and the way that they utilize the tremolo guitars below it, this is the perfect amalgamation for me of their space guitars and Tom's lyrical flow, the intimacy that he tries to bring in with his voice. And of course, it's about Tom telling a very sad girl that a little's enough. I'm sorry to say it, but you look like you're sad. Your smile is gone. I noticed it pretty bad. Hey, girl, I noticed you're looking pretty sad there. Have you ever tried letting in a little more love? They do repeat it to death, but they do enough with it that I enjoy it. This is an appropriate follow-up. He's losing his mind because the world is going so crazy. We're on the edge. The disc is corrupt and we're running low on luck. The world is on fire and IMIs can't balance things lately. I think we're gonna die. I must be losing my mind. This is how I think everyone has felt, at least at some point over the last year. And the song is doing a really good job of capturing that. The government is watching us. We're not alone. There's idiots abound. They're all fucking racist. I'll put us back at ease because we need more complacence. We're all gonna die. He feels very laid back when he's singing this, and it could have been used like ironically. You could progressively get more and more outrageous and disturbing with the lyrics, but keeping this pumping upbeat bass behind you. I think that would have been funny. At this point, Tom has had it. He's fucking over it with your racist bullshit, and he's just trying to tell you how it is. I just didn't connect to this song. The way he like slowly sings over it, especially compared to A Little's Enough, which is just this powerful declaration of just a little love. All you need is just a little bit of love, because a little is enough. Now, for the song The War, I feel like they are appropriately heavy. There is a heaviness to the guitars, to the beat, pounding, almost breakdown-like melody, with Tom just like scratchily straining himself, singing, "Why won't you tell me that it's almost over?" When he sings that, there's so much emotion behind it that the performance on this album is just miles ahead of everything they're doing on their new one. It's like each song is appropriate to the theme and the emotion that he is trying to get out. And when you only have 10 slots on your album, you need to make every single one count. And I think The War switches up the mood, adds in a new layer, new level of anger that this band has not displayed previously to it. Okay, so now we're channeling The Cure. We're still channeling U2 because that's the only person he knows how to emulate. This is vastly just different than anything Angels and Airwaves have done before, which makes this album extremely confusing to take in, because it's like if they fundamentally have stripped down everything that I liked about the band, everything I went to the band to hear, and now they're just making music that isn't Angels and Airwaves, then why would I come to this band? Why would I come to this album? We Don't Need to Whisper is solely Angels and Airwaves and could have only come out of his brain in this time period. Though I do like the hooks in it, I like the parts in it, it is a little more dancey, it is a lighter song after two heavier songs about the state of the world. Though I'm a little iffy on how he sings She's on Automatic. I like the idea that she's just kind of casually drifting through life, that she's on autopilot is probably how he would normally describe that. But for some reason on this first listen to, how Tom seems to be hitting She's on Automatic feels counterintuitive to like what your mouth wants to do. Has anyone described their life as being on automatic as opposed to a manual life? At 17, only wants what she can't find. Wait, what? If she only wants what she can't find, then that would assume self-determination. What she desires, it's outside what's being provided for her. So how can she be on automatic if she has desires outside of what's given to her? Oh no, am I thinking too much about Tom DeLonge lyrics again? Fuck. I told myself I gotta stop doing this. I miss when he was saying, hey yo, here I am. But at the same time, I really enjoyed how he said, yeah, you'll dance when I say so. And when Daddy Tom commands me to dance, I listen. And I believe that keeps our playlist even. So it's anyone's game at this point. What Angels and Airwaves was really, really good in the beginning with their first couple albums is bringing the crowd in, is making the crowd feel like it was part of a community with Angels and Airwaves, a conversation. He sings, oh, 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 whoa, oh, whoa, and the audience must feel compelled to answer back, oh, whoa, oh, oh, whoa, oh, whoa. It seems like you're part of something singing with them, like it's bigger than you, like it's bigger than the music, and I think at best, that's what music can do. It can kind of pick you up and transport you beyond this little isolated ball you live yourself into, and it can give you a new experience, a new place, and a community to make you feel like you're actually a part of something, you're part of this group, making you feel safe and secure. But this time, it's mostly about a gift that was given for Tom. I feel like I'm in for it now. It's a rush that has gone straight to my brain. My voice is as lonely as loud, and I whisper the joy of this pain. And if you ask, you will do what you say. It's a good song. It's a little lighter, but I do enjoy how the drums come in. All the drum parts on this album are just fucking stellar. You can tell the kit is just being played at 100, gives the songs a kick of energy, even when they're a little more downbeat, even when they're a little more intimate. This year has been rough for Tom. He has some things to say, and he's not gonna hold his tongue any longer. Is this about the insurrection? Is this about January 6th? Everything and everyone, every word is falsified. Cannot see what you become. A little hard to recognize. People that get swept up in the, can't sleep when shots are fired, even when they're justified. Who's firing the shots, Tom? There's another kind of treason, any day that can lose yourself, anything that you believe in, your little prison in a private hell. I think Tom is good at singing about like bigger issues, but always bring it back to mean relationships or yourself. And it happens at this time, I enjoy both of them. This feels a lot more like classic Angels and Airwaves. This feels a little more personal. It feels a little more honest. There's just something about this track, even though it does not sound like Tom singing, like the way his voice sounds is completely different. And I do like that he is branching out, trying to sing about something more in the world, though I do think it's funny that it's still kind of in the same place that he was with Boxcar Racer. And at a certain point, I gotta go, Tom, maybe there's other solutions than just being positive and trying to pull through the situation. your best friend is not your girlfriend. It hurts. It really does hurt. It hurts approximately 17 times. This is a bitter song, which is interesting for Angels and Airwaves since they're typically trying to explore love and trying to find connections amongst people and humans. This is more of a fuck you bitch, which out of Mark, he was always the more bitter of the lyricist. I don't know who Sherry is. Does she want it? Tom wants it. How did I let her inside? Her dripping a sweat. I'm feeling all right. Was she inside of you? Is that why it hurts? It's okay if your best friend is not your girlfriend. You can have multiple friends. You don't have to have a best friend. You can have a relationship and you can have a friend. But I also don't think you need a song scorching that dude for like not liking the girl. This is definitely a lot more in line with what I enjoy. Give me a good, catchy synth line and I am probably hooked. And that line is used just appropriate throughout the song. It's reincorporated in the chorus and the verses and I enjoy it. But is Tom's voice utilized well when being sung over it? This album feels consistent with itself in all the elements that they're pulling and how every song kind of feels like it's emulating a different sound, but the songs themselves just don't really stick out apart from one another. When you do come to a song that does have a catchy hook, a very distinct part to it, it does tend to sing out more than the other entries, and Rebel Girl so far has been one of the more enjoyable ones. I don't find the chorus too like choppy with his voice, so in that sense, I think Rebel Girl, your little Rebel Girl, is a perfect candidate for our playlist. Isn't there a song called Rebel Girl by like Bikini Kill? Who is that? Rebel Girl. This song. This is a song for a Rebel Girl. I know I put down The Gift for being a little slower of a song, but Good Day takes that like slowness, intimacy of The Gift and adds what I was talking about with that little synth riff on the other song and combines it to create something that feels a little bit like a lullaby, that feels a little sweet, I think has like a genuine message, and the way that it just drops out for I Think I Like Today, I think it's good. Just being able to look back on a day and to say I liked it, that I had a good day, was monumental. This song, I think, perfectly captures that feeling. And of course, I always enjoy the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-das. I will sing them every fucking time. They make me feel powerful. The bass line in this song is just such a good groove. It just makes you kind of want to bounce your shoulders to it. It's interesting through all this. I've said they have become a different band and they feel so entirely different, but they do still scratch those same sort of themes. There's smoke in the distance, a sign of revere, a fire in a nameless town, I called you at this moment, danger, things falling apart, things breaking away, happening in the background of romance and love. This is Angels and Airwaves at their core. This is what they do. Grand, epic love stories. So when it comes to like a slower, downbeat, electronica type song, I just don't find the groove in this one anything interesting. The chorus doesn't go as big as it needs to. You have the drums in the background, but they feel so much more muted. And it's just like the impact isn't there. They're trying to do the Angels and Airwaves sound. They're trying to go big and bombastic, but there's just like a leveler that's keeping them from breaking that mold into that emotional release of sound. This wasn't the worst one. It did have a good like atmospheric tone to it, and I think I would really appreciate the instrumentals by themselves. But when it comes to the overall song, that just hits me to my absolute core. Before we go into our final song, I think it's important to just look at the playlist. I am shocked. There's 4 songs from We Don't Need a Whisper and 5 from Lifeforms. I feel like I enjoy We Don't Need a Whisper so much more, but apparently there's been a lot of Lifeforms to like, to enjoy. And that brings us to our final mashup. It could be Lifeforms to take for the win. Either way, we're gonna start that machine, baby. If love is a word that you say, then say it. I'm fucking listening to you, bitch. Even though Start the Machine does hit on those cheesy love themes that Angels and Airwaves have always fucking hit on, feels less egregious here since this is the first time they have made a big declarative statement about love. If love's a word that you say it and I will listen. It's not talking about love itself. It's not talking about like the concept of love, how love is a thing we need. Love is a thing we feel within ourselves, besides ourselves, around ourselves. Like, it's so simplistic that just the word, how the word can make you feel, it makes you want to scream. This just built-in energy that they have. And I think the plucky little metal instrument, I forget what they're called, but it's like you have the little metal things that you just kind of pluck, bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop. I love how that sounds. It sounds almost like a little toy piano. It's a very restrictive instrument because the sounds are so limited to this tiny little scale and it has no like power behind it. Him coming out with it makes me want to scream, and then the instruments flow through, just give it this very powerful push that feels like you're breaking out of the music, like you're breaking above the music. And then the guitars with that riff with the da-na, da-na, da-da, da-da, just makes it feel like this flowing sound that helps bring back all the elements of just space and time and distance and vacuumness and being bigger than ourselves and smaller than ourselves. And it does it all in 4 minutes. It's a powerful song, and there's a lot of parts in it that still hit as fresh as they did when I was 13. How does Lifeforms choose to end their album? Finishing off 2021's Lifeforms, we have Kiss and Tell, a song that came out 2 years ago. 2 years of anticipation for this new Angels and Airwaves album, a song that demanded not one, but 2 music videos. And it's the track that they choose to end their album on. Lorraine, love, please stay a bit tonight. So he's asking this woman, Lorraine, to stay. Call it what you like if right. Okay, so whatever Lorraine feels about their relationship, I guess he's fine with that. Don't you know how I fell too hard? What do you mean too hard? When you say how I fell so hard for you? Lorraine, no. Lorraine, fucking stop it. I know you, Lorraine. I know how you go around telling people about all your kisses. It's a little red cherry when you bury any evidence you got. If you feel a bit shallow on the gallows, can we try a new gunshot? Are you fucking hating her for telling people you guys kissed? With that being said, this is just kind of an empty fluff of a song, and I felt that way when it was released as a single. It's a fine song on its own, but when it comes to like the ending track on an Angels and Airwaves album, it just feels so empty. It feels like it's just a throw on. Like, hey, we had this song done, so we might as well put it on this record. Where Start the Machine just feels so integral to this album that to take it off or to not have it be the ending feels like you're removing the bookend of this experience. And if I'm being honest with myself, Start the Machine is just the better song. I bitched out. I could not commit to giving one album or the other, and maybe they are both equal in quality, though I would argue that the songs I chose from We Don't Need to Whisper has so much more emotion and personality than any song on Lifeforms. It does not sound evocative of the emotional place that Angels and Airwaves has always put me in. And it sort of feels like Tom trying to distance himself, trying to create a more radio-friendly band, maybe a little poppier band, maybe trying to expand outside of their little niche that they've been living in since 2006. But ultimately, that comes to a record that feels lifeless, ironically, since it's called Lifeforms, but it does have some inspired moments on it, and I tried to reward those moments. We have come out at a standstill, 5 songs to 5 songs. I may have to look more deeper into Angels and Airwaves discography, determine if they are the band that they once were or if they have changed. Do I even like them anymore? Do I care? I still get those same choked up, goosebumpy feelings from Distraction, A Little's Enough, in a way that I haven't gotten them yet from any of the songs on Lifeforms. Maybe if I listen to them more, then they will sink into that place, but there's just not that automatic emotional reaction. Here's our playlist. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Was I wrong to even put these albums together? Tell me what 2 albums below would you like to see go head to head, song v song. And I will catch you next time. I'm Greyson Todd. Thank you for watching. Listen to some good shit. Don't you kiss and tell, Lorraine. Don't you fucking do it.